The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
Just like everybody expected, Indiana and Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals.
You are Locked On NBA Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's just a battle between two teams that have continued to buck trends all season, all postseason long. The tempo which they play with is typically not allowed in the NBA playoffs. The youth and experience of their top of the line guys like Tyrese, Haliburton, like SGA, like J-Dub and Chet is typically not allowed to get to this stage this fast. And they've made it. And now they are going to see a situation where they can go after their first ever NBA championship, which is going to be a lot of fun.
A rare thing where the winner will not be in the luxury tax. That almost never happens. The winner will
never happened before, where both teams are not paying the tax.
Both? I did not know that was the first time ever. I saw that the winner, it'll only be like the 5th time ever or something.
Yeah, it's never happened where both teams are not taxpayers.
One of the first 5 times that the winner will acquire their star players straight up via trade, not via sign and trade or signing or by drafting them. And obviously it's the first title for Oklahoma City or Indiana. I assume you do not count the Seattle portion of this when you discuss
the fan base, the organization, myself, nobody counts Seattle's history.
Yeah. And so a lot of history to be made here. It's going to be exciting. Most people know who these teams are because they've ran through 3 rounds of the playoffs, but it's our job to set the scene of the series. And I think this is the best place to start. You go first here, Rylan. What makes the Thunder so good? How'd they get here?
They are built on a historically great defense and one that's only gotten better in the postseason. Obviously, defense travels, and defense is one of the more translatable pieces of the sport and of the game itself. But the fact that they've taken their defense to another level is surprising. They have just this plethora of point of attack defenders to throw at head of the Snakes throughout this playoff series, and they can do it in multiple different ways. Like you saw all the unique coverages that they put to Jokic to really have him off of his game. I mean, obviously he was still great in that series, but for his standards, that was not a comfortable and not a great series for Jokic. They took away Ant and Randall the entire series, and then Memphis didn't have a star. But you look at Indiana now, and they have a unique position to put the Thunder defense in, but it's been on the back of their defense, on the back of SGA, who has put together a historically great season. It's a small sample size because not a ton of guards have won the MVP award, but one of the best guard seasons for any player, and to win the MVP for him and go for the trifecta of winning the NBA MVP, Western Conference MVP, and maybe the NBA Finals MVP, like, would be insane. Yes. You got to throw that in there of just leading the league in scoring from SGA, and then both teams building around the nucleus that has came up together. But also, when you look to the future, they're not going to go away anytime soon, especially with how wide open the East is for Indiana. Like, this is going to be something that both teams should relish in the NBA Finals. But yeah, it's been their defense, and it's been having one of the best players in the league in SGA.
Yeah, I've said basically since the first round, but really since the second round, that if you broke every team into 2 parts, like, for example, Cavs offense and Cavs defense, or did that for every team left, the Thunder defense was the best thing. And it probably was, honestly, the second the playoffs started. But I started saying it when the second round started in the field, right? And it's just a lot of the take a defense relative to the rest of the league average stuff says it's the best defense ever, right? And it's that level of good. They have endless bodies who are talented to throw at people. Nikola Jokic was dang, this is really tough. This Alex Caruso guy's on me, and I can't really get rolling. It's just so good. You said something there that's not related to what we're talking about, but I have to address this now. You've probably already seen a bunch of think pieces like, how are these teams built? Can this team copy what the Thunder did? Can that team copy what the Pacers did? And I think you'd agree with me that while, yes, there are transactions that teams could try to emulate, the big answer is just that these two teams have been really good at player development. And that is hard. That is hard. You can't just copy player development to different locations. And everybody says, oh, they bought low on Aaron Nesmith. They identified Isaiah Joe on the waiver wire. And yeah, they did. But That's not what it is. If every team could just buy low on good players who happen to be available, they would. You don't know that. You have to make them a good player on your team. It's already driving me crazy about the Pacers, and I'm sure it's making you feel the same way about the Thunder. Isaiah Joe wasn't that good. That's why he got cut. But the Thunder made him good, and that applies to many of these guys on both teams.
Yeah, I think that you're totally right. I think that the one thing you can take if you're other teams is utilizing your roster spots that way, is fostering and getting coaches in there, getting a structure in place for your organization that you can develop talent, because it's only half the battle to get the names. You have to turn them into household names and good players and be willing to let them grow. I mean, neither team gets here if they just cut off their nose to spite their face and only play the top 5 guys on their roster. They got here by exploring their roster, by finding ways to maximize its roster, and then it paid off in the postseason. And I think that you will see that the copycat trend of this finals being, hey, let's stop just giving away roster spots to guys. Let's stop just with the 20th pick going for an 18-year-old that's not very good and probably won't be very good. Let's try to get actual good players in. Let's try to utilize every single roster spot, and let's take the regular season, which is what the Thunder did despite winning 68 games, to figure out how we can utilize 1 through 15 on this roster, 1 through 18 with the two-way guys. Like, being able to foster that development is a big deal, and that is something that teams should try to do. It's very hard. It's very hard to do, but when you look at
it, they would.
Exactly. If everything can do it, they would do it. But now you have to figure out how are they developing their guys, and how can you try to implement that development. And I think that one of the ways to do it is by playing them, just simply playing these guys. Like, Isaiah Joe didn't get to play in Philadelphia a whole heck of a lot, and they'd love to have Isaiah Joe right now. Whenever they previously cut him, and the Thunder brought in Vance Rossman, who was with the Sixers, and he got in Isaiah Joe, and then they developed him, and it took off. But without the Thunder throwing him into a quote unquote meaningless game in the regular season against Dallas, where he just goes off, none of this happens. And so I think that what you're seeing with these two teams is, in the NBA now, you can't just have a good 5 guys. Like, the Thunder do not get here unless they were willing to play Jay Will from the Arkansas backup big man against Nikola Jokic. Like, the decision to play him against Jokic and have him have success, you don't get that if you're stubborn and only playing 8 guys and heading into a series with, like, hey, these are my 7. No matter what happens, I'm playing these 7. Kenrich Williams didn't play a single meaningful playoff minute into the Western Conference Finals, and he turns around game 1 by shutting down Julius Randle, and the rest is history. Like, you've got to be willing to do that stuff if you're other NBA organizations, and they have to get the coaches in there and the staffs in there that will be willing to do it. And I think that, Tony, both of us cover the G League teams. How many times did you go see a Mad Ants game or an OKC Blue game where they are utilizing every single minute, every single G League assignment, and they're really focused on development?
And they have guys who are willing to do it. And yeah, like Tony Bradley just played in the conference finals for the Pacers. Like, you got to be Thunder legend, Tony Bradley, I believe.
Thunder legend.
Yeah, you got to be able to stretch out your team and develop these guys, make them work for you. And these franchises have been just absolutely fantastic at that. And that's going to be the emulatable part. I just totally detached from what we were talking about. What makes the Pacers good, because this is funny. Everybody's talked about that these teams are similar-ish stylistically. I don't think that's totally fair, because the thing that makes the Pacers good is very obvious. It's that they play an offensive style that is so tough to guard. And it's it's not fair to just say, like, they play an offensive style that's elite. Like, the thing that makes it specifically good is you can't really prep for it as a team. Donovan Mitchell was all over this in the second round. They play fast, so do the Thunder, but the difference is they play what they call random. I don't think to them it's random, but to us it's random, and to their opponents it's random. It's a lot of concepts instead of actions. They don't like to call plays unless they have to. You look at Rick Carlisle, he's never holding up a symbol. Not never, but he's very rarely holding up a symbol trying to call a play. He's doing this. He's moving his arm in circles, saying speed up, speed up, speed up. They want to play fast and go boom, 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 you. And eventually, in the course of moving the ball a million times, doing all these handoffs, having a fulcrum in the middle of the court, they're going to generate a good shot. Or they're going to make you really work to not have them generate a good shot. And by the end of the game, you're exhausted, right? And that's what Donovan Mitchell said, is there's this wear down effect, and you can't prep for that speed in practice. You can talk about it, you can watch film of it, but you cannot physically do it as an opposing team. Out to the Thunder are potentially the most well-equipped team to do it, but you can't actually do it. And that's why these games happen. Teams are like, what are we doing? How does this work? Even OKC was down however much in Indy when the Pacers were rolling in December, and then the fourth quarter torture chamber showed up and they won the game. But, like, it's hard to play the Pacers because of that offense, and that's why I'm so excited for the series. It's that kind of offense and that kind of team that is fourth in the NBA in effective field goal percentage, generates and makes good shots, versus a defense that's like, yeah, we're going to try to cut off everything because we're good enough to do it. It's going to be very fun.
Yeah, and I think that it is going to be a fantastic finals from a chess match standpoint. Of you look at Indiana, and they have great improvisation skills. It's controlled chaos offensively. The Thunder like to just have a ton of ball pressure. They like to swarm, the head of the snake with a guy like Haliburton and a guy like Siakam in the post. And that oftentimes concedes wide open threes in the corners, especially for 2 straight years now for OKC, as they've had 2 great defenses. This year's, of course, better than last year's, but they've let up open threes that you just cannot get by with against Indiana. So can Indiana force OKC to alter how they've defended to this point now for 2 years and now to a historic level? I think will be very fascinating, because it's not just Haliburton's elite playmaking, which he is elite at passing the basketball, but around him, what I think that Indiana doesn't get enough credit for is their secondary playmakers. Once he gets the ball out of his hands, he's passing it to guys who can make split-second decisions and who can find the open man, and that forces a lot onto your rotations defensively. The Thunder are a great rotating team, but eventually, those decisions and the constant rotating, you just are susceptible then to breaking down and letting up open shots. So do the Thunder now change their identity and just play Indiana straight up, which is what they haven't done to any player yet, and kind of stay home a bit more in those corners and not let up those open threes? It's hard to change that on the fly in the midst of one series. So it'll be a great chess match.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
We're down to 2. And not the 2 you thought they were. Johnny Bryant, Jordan Ott, the good, the bad, and the ugly of both.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast.
We'll break down both of the 2 candidates who are part of the interview Tuesday. Joining me to do all of it and talk about the Toronto Raptors as a potential wild card this NBA offseason. As always, from the wonderful West Valley, my fellow Suns credential media member. How are we feeling? Ben Garcia.
What's up, man? 2 things. One, I should have mentioned this before the show. Looks like we got decided we were going to just get dressed, wear the same thing. You put your hat forward for this instance. And 2, Johnny Bryant. Wow. Just making the finalist list. Hey, listen, good thing, Johnny Bryant, my guy. Bad thing, I might be having the same sports takes or aligned with Brian Gregory, and I'm not so sure if that's a good thing, Brendan. I'm not so sure if that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, we'll start with Jordan Ott here. He is currently an assistant for the Cavs as well, of course. And I actually think it kind of worked out for us, because these are the 2 dudes we probably have dug in least on, really deep dived, because, again, we did not expect this to be the last 2. I don't think. We had heard Gambo thought it would be Sweeney and Quinn. Then there was some question as to if Sweeney even made the last round, and now he's not obviously one of these 2. And, why did that happen? Whatever, that's a conversation for a different time. But Ott is 1 year with Cleveland. Before that, 2 years under. He comes from the Bud coaching tree, which is hilarious. Obviously, he originally comes from Michigan State, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But it's hilarious that he was originally hired as a video coordinator when Bud was coaching the Hawks. But if we work backward from now, those Lakers seasons, that happened because of Darvin Ham, who also is part of Bud's coaching tree. The part that I actually don't think is getting enough attention, that might be the most interesting part of his candidacy, Ben, is the Nets run. He was with Brooklyn for 6 years, which bridged across 3 coaches, if not 4. He worked for Atkinson. He worked for Nash. and he worked for Ime Udoka.
Oh, I was going to say Jacques Vaughn.
Oh, sorry, Jacques Vaughn. I got them mixed up.
Okay, there we go.
Ime Udoka
right.
there. Jacques Vaughn is absolutely correct. I got those two guys, both hard-ass defensive coaches. I got them confused. Yeah, like that's pretty interesting. And I was doing some digging there, and before that it was the Hawks, and Michigan State. But like to lock in on that Nets part of it, he was described in a few different articles that I read. And if this doesn't get Suns fans' attention and make them get on board despite the Spartan energy, I don't know what will. He was Steve Nash's offensive coordinator. I saw that phrase verbatim. If you don't think Steve Nash's offensive right-hand man is good enough, you're not a real Suns fan. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, let's piggyback off that really quickly. You did more than, like, I'm not saying yes because I knew that. That's inauthentic of me. I was reaching out to, I've been talking actually constant contact since last Friday with Danny Cunningham of Locked On Cavs, super plugged in. It's his 9-to-5 job. That's all he does. And he was asking me my opinions of Jordan Ott. And he had said to me right away, he goes, I hope he stays. That's my guy. And also mentioned he had a ton to do with the offense. He had a lot of say in the Cavs offense, is what Danny told me over with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so what does that tell you? Okay, well, he had a little bit of success with Donovan Mitchell, and leads me to, well, Devin Booker, right? If Devin Booker wants to be utilized correctly, and we've talked about him being a part of this coaching search, maybe Booker sees Ott's fingerprints on Donovan Mitchell's offensive game and thinks to himself, that could be me. Now, they play a little bit different style of games, but I'm just saying that you want to play into that offensive role. If he had a lot to say over with the Cavs, Nash's guy, that's something. And God, I'm so over the Michigan State thing, but that's another thing.
Yeah, you can't possibly look at what Cleveland did on offense this year, no matter who you are. Brian Gregory, Devin Booker, freaking rookie A, B, or C who they may draft at 29, and not be very excited about what that can do for your game. I mean, they turned Ty Jerome back into an NBA player who's going to get paid this summer, and they made, Evan Mobley took huge strides, on and on down the line. The Donovan Mitchell thing, I think, applies probably more to the next guy we're going to talk about, because those two are like blood brothers. Johnny Bryant and Donovan Mitchell are like genuine friends and life partners, from what it sounds like. Like they're human friends. So like, but if your book, like, of course you could see yourself fitting into what Cleveland did. The cutting, the off-ball movement, bombing from three. It's not to mention, like, to go back to the Brooklyn thing, that team, the number one thing that I like about it, and it's a little bit less related to book, but it's another illustration of Ott's creativity, is if you remember those Nets teams, before Claxton developed, and so he wasn't there the 2022-23 season. He had gone to LA at that point, and that's when Claxton really broke out. Before that, Bruce Brown was their center. If people remember that weird experimental thing that they had to do, the guy who went on to be Denver's, key role player, beat the Suns, everything. That guy was playing center for them. And that basically inspired this whole generation, or, this little mini era of guys like Gary Payton II, even Josh Okogie, who we saw in Phoenix, being used as big men, but being wings. And I'm not saying that to say, like, there's a one-to-one, this player on the Suns, but I'm saying it to show he is an outside-the-box guy. Different places he's been able to unlock new little wrinkles based on the personnel provided to him. And I don't know how you couldn't be intrigued about that, even if, again, and we should just address the elephant in the room because we both talked around it twice. Last show, yesterday, I threw this at you at the end, kind of blindsided you. I said, what are the chances Ott's one of the last two? And you're like, shut up, basically. That's not happening.
I did say that.
Here we are. The Michigan State thing, even if they hire him, and we all love him at the press conference, and we can sit here and break down his resume, there's going to be a big portion of fans who are listening to this right now who will be following the team next season, people around the league, media, everything, who will just roll their eyes and say, nepotism, whatever, this is just another Spartan family tree hire, and it's a big joke.
To my answer to that would be this, because I'm really sick of it. Brian Gregory, I've said this before, and you agree, I believe, was not qualified for this job. Did not have any of the qualifications that really met the idea of being the Suns general manager. Jordan Knott might get hired because of the nepotism aspect of him being an MSU grad, sure. But he has the qualifications. You pointed this out to me this morning of Johnny Bryant's got one more year of experience than Jordan Knott does. What pisses off everyone and what they should just say is they liked Chris Quinn better. They liked Sean Sweeney better. And I said it too. It does kind of suck that he beat out all those guys, but I'm not in the rooms, man. He could be wowing these guys behind closed doors. And listen, believe it or don't, I did hear the reports today from Gambo saying that this was all Brian Gregory run. Now, take it with a grain of salt because it seems like every reporter has had pieces of the truth, but no one has had the entire thing.
Well, and you and I were able to get a hold of one person who interviewed in the first round, and they told us it was just a Zoom with Brian Gregory, right? So, yeah, I think that's true, and I don't think it's because of Ishbia, but look, Brian Gregory also went to MSU, so he could be affecting.
True.
His
Very
bias
true.
could be there too, even if it is just him. It doesn't have to be Ishbia, but here's the thing, like, if they had hired Magic Johnson to be the next head coach, or David Fizdale, not even all these people are MSU people, but close to Ishbia, personal connection-based hires, running it back type of mentality. Isaiah Thomas or something, or freaking Tom Izzo jumps to the pros or whatever, like the Pete Carroll in Vegas type hire. Like, I would think it was stupid. Even Steve Hetzel, who also popped up in this search, I don't think of him as being ready. His experience is not been on good teams at the NBA level. This guy's not like that. I think that he is more than experienced enough, and his resume stacks up just fine against everybody else that you could put him, everybody else in this search. The last thing I'll throw out that I like, he coached the Lakers Summer League team a couple years ago. He coached the Cavs Summer League team last year, and he's done this stuff. Like, he was signed on to, I found this article saying this summer he's signed on to coach the Cavs Summer League team again and be an assistant for Team Latvia in Eurobasket. He's done stuff with this like 3 SSB select team, which is like an AAU group. Even as a pro coach, he bounces around, and he seems to really be a grinder guy who just gets experience and absorbs basketball stuff at every chance that he can. And I like that. So if he's picked, I'll have the reservations because of the connections, but I won't think it's a bad hire.
Well, I mean, listen, man, you can't think it's a bad hire because the guy has the experience. You might have liked someone else. I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to the fan base, where it's like, you might have liked Chris Quinn. Chris Quinn might have sucked behind closed doors. Let's be honest. We don't actually know anything about these assistant coaches. We can only grade them off of the teams that they've been and their Wikipedia articles. This guy might be awesome. Like, the nepotism thing is a little frustrating because it was nepotism combined with inexperience for Brian Gregory. With Jordan Knott, you're just getting upset because it's someone Matt Ishbia likes, and he's been on maybe Matt Ishbia likes, and he hasn't been on a heater in terms of hires. So listen, man, nepotism happens in every sport. The Utah Jazz just hired his son to be the assistant GM, and no one's pointing that out. LeBron James
to be
drafted
promoted
his own
from
son.
the assistant GM to be the president of basketball operations.
There you go.
Yeah, so
like, it just happened.
Right.
Utah just did it, and then LeBron just drafted his son. Like, look at
there's
the
a level that's normal. This doesn't cross it, and you're right. Neither one of us had first. We're not trying to blow smoke or be revisionist about anything. He wouldn't be our pick. I think out of these two, he still wouldn't be our pick.
No,
but that doesn't mean he's bad.
The NBA Finals are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite teams or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet my favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, I can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You could place that first $5 bet on Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The Thunder are favored by 9 at home against the Pacers. I would take a adjusted line and get it to like 15 just to get better odds, because I think they could blow the doors off the Pacers in Game 1. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
Ryan Smith said it. It's Austin's show. A major change at the top of the Utah Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz.
The day starts with Ryan Smith. It's Austin's show now. This is a major change on top. My understanding is that Justin Zanuck reports now to the president of basketball operations. Austin Ainge is the general manager. The basketball decisions will be made by Austin Ainge. So this is not Austin Ainge sliding in with Danny and Justin. This is Austin Ainge's show. And that is a massive change to who the Utah Jazz are and what's going forward. And Ryan Smith has built Will Hardy, Austin Ainge. Well, that's where Ryan and Ashley Smith have built it, and that's where it is. Let's start with a few things. I'm going to go through about 3 things. What I know about Austin Ainge, why is he qualified, and what it means for the Utah Jazz. So I don't know Austin Ainge. I've actually never talked to him. We'll look forward to it. The NBA phone rings on days like yesterday. The consensus I got from multiple conversations all day, one is just a super high quality human in a business of where friendships are false, where interactions are inauthentic, where everyone's conniving and looking for something. That's not Austin Ainge. That was the number one thing that came back to me yesterday from people about Austin Ainge. Just, sought me out and said hi to me when we were in Boston this year, authentically. So that was number one. Number 2, always has had an incredible ability to recognize talent at early stages, early ages of who are going to be the important talent and what's coming. That has always been a massive strength for Austin Ainge, is that ability to kind of understand who is in the mix and who's supposed to be there. Peyton Pritchard, one that he seems to have been very heavily involved in. It's very hard inside organizations to know who you give credit to. And Aaron Nesmith, who's now in Indiana, was another one that seems to be heavily in his role. Okay. Let me just actually address number 2 on this that probably matters a great deal to everyone. Is he qualified? Is this a nepotism hire that Danny Ainge orchestrated? And is Austin Ainge qualified to be the president of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz? So he starts his basketball non-playing career in 2007 as an assistant at Southern Utah. And then in 2008-9 becomes the first head coach of the Maine Red Claw. Now, Danny, his dad, is obviously involved, I think, at that point, as the president of Boston. In 2011, so 14 years ago, he becomes director of player personnel of the Boston Celtics. If you want to criticize his resume and say it's a nepotism hire, then the criticism is that he's only been in one organization his entire career. On the other end, it's one of the best organizations there is in all of professional sports. And the fact that he's been there for 14 years, was never moved out, that he didn't get thrown out when Danny left, it's pretty telling. So his resume is 14 years as a player personnel in the NBA. That is ready to be president of basketball operations somewhere. Having worked for one of the best organizations that won a title in that time period and been a part of that, it qualifies you to run a president of basketball operations somewhere. And the fact that he's done it under both his father and under Brad Stevens, I think adds to the depth of that resume. Again, if you wanted to be critical for the sake of being critical, your comment would be that he's only worked for one organization, only seen one way things are done in his entire career. Okay, I'll take that. On the other end, one of the better organizations in all of professional sports kept him for 14 years. Why now? That's not entirely clear to me. Is this a reaction to last season's tanking and the lottery and the disappointment of the year? And Ryan's like, I'm done with it. We're moving on. I don't entirely think so. Is it we're done with tanking, as was kind of said in this press conference, and we'll address that. And so we're moving on in a disgust of what happened? I don't get that vibe. The vibe I got was that at some point in time, there was going to be a president of basketball operations of this nature. And that probably in Ryan's mind, he's known Ryan and Ashley, that it was going to be Austin Ainge. And there was one little line. I always think in press conferences, the most important thing is what was not asked and what was said. Where Ryan Smith kind of said, well, there had begun to be percolation that other people were interested. So I think Ryan saw someone he really wanted to have come and run his basketball operations and began to get worried that somebody else in the league was about to hire him. And with new ownership in Boston, frankly, now's a good time to ask someone of whether they want to trade something new. So there is a fair, speculation, if someone who wants to, that's a reaction to last season. But it wasn't like, let's not misunderstand this. Everybody was on board to what was taking place last season. Obviously, the lottery didn't turn out well, but the rules didn't change the day before. What does this mean for the Utah Jazz? So the big headliner out was when Sean O'Connell asked whether basically you're willing to manipulate minutes, games, tanking, and he said no. That's great to hear. I do not necessarily think that means it will be great next year. I still think we're probably have the 15th best roster in the Western Conference right now. And honestly, the fact that Oklahoma City has the rights to our pick if we're not 1 through 8, and if we do not give it to them, if we're 1 through 8 next year, it becomes 2 second-round picks, almost puts us on a point where it's negligent if we're not 1 through 8 picking next year. We're not going to win a title, I don't think. I don't think unless we really pull some incredible moves, we're going to be massively better, or we're going to be a 45 to 55 win team competing for the first Final Four of our conference. So it's almost negligent for us to be picking 1 through 8. The one thing we have not done over the last 3 years has been willing to take a deal to clear roster. We may be willing to do that.